there are benefits and drawbacks of taking on a short-term temporary role. And these need to be considered very carefully, especially if you are currently unemployed and the household bills are stacking up. But also, if you're about to be made unemployed, there are benefits and drawbacks too which need to be carefully considered. A couple of the very clear benefits of accepting a temporary role are that you will create instant income, you're straight into the work, you're paid weekly or monthly, and that will allow you a little bit of leeway and breathing space in terms of generating cash flow and also stabilising any debts and household bills that you currently have. Secondly, it gets you back to work where you're demonstrating competence, where you're learning, where you're collaborating, where you're delivering the productivity and quality and outcomes that the organisation is paying you and trusting you to deliver. And this can be a very clear benefit in the event of a job turning up, whether it's the job that you're employed in temporarily or an unrelated job within the same organisation. Remember that it's easier for an employer to choose someone that's currently in their organisation on a temporary basis as a potential full-time employee than it is to recruit from the outside, where there's 100, 200 applications, decent applications, good applications, but they've no evidence that the person can actually deliver what's required in the real world of work. So, temporary jobs can be taken as a positioning opportunity for you to get in with an employer that you may want to work for, but also even if you don't want to work for them and your temporary job, as long as it's at least for a month's duration, it's coming to an end, why not ask that employer for a personal reference? Not through your agency, because they'll just say you worked with so-and-so organisation for so-and-so weeks and you did okay. But also, if an agency is finding that you're going elsewhere to find a job opportunity, they may feel in one way that they should wish you well in your future success in your career. Also, because agencies don't get paid until you've been placed, ideally by them, they may want to keep hold of you on their books. So, temporary jobs, instant access to cash and stability in terms of finance. Also, instant access to a potential employer, so you can demonstrate competence, confidence, and all of these other competences that you're learning here, as well as what you already know. A couple of drawbacks in terms of taking temporary roles are, they are just temporary. There's no long-term stability in terms of financial income. And also, if you go through an agency, or even if you go direct, they could end your employment at the end of the week. And then where do you go? But also, if you are on a temporary role, it may get your attention off networking effectively, which is covered in another video, in terms of developing credibility, in terms of identifying opportunities, in terms of refining and updating your CV, and looking on the job sites, on the internet and in the local papers and industry-specific media to get new opportunities. But this drawback can be quite easily, the gap can be shortened, because just because you're working 9 to 5 or even through a shift, it doesn't mean that you can't spend an hour each day at the end of the day doing these other activities. So please don't take temporary employment as a reason or an excuse to not continue to use these tools, use these skills and identify opportunities. So bear in mind, benefits of temporary employment: instant access to cash, instant access to a potential employer, and instant access to, subject to you performing well, a good reference to include in your application pack. Drawbacks: no long-term commitment from the employer, so you may go through peaks and troughs in terms of what you're doing, in terms of the type of work, and also the range of pay, which usually isn't quite good unless you're a technical expert in some subject. And also, this working can also take your mind away from and attention from continuing to develop your credibility online, offline, and seeking other opportunities. So there are benefits and drawbacks to this. Please choose carefully what's good for you, and also if you have a family, what's good for the family too.